the cliffs of Cap Blanc-Nez, France. September 7th, 1940. Mid-afternoon. The sound arrives before anything else. A low drone from the south, distant at first, then building, filling the sky above the chalk headland until the air itself seems to vibrate with it. 348 bombers, 617 fighters, a formation so large that the channel below appears to darken as it passes over. On the cliff's edge, at a table draped in white linen, surrounded by his senior commanders and crystal glasses of champagne, stands a heavy-framed man in a white Reichsmarshal's tunic. Hermann Göring raises his binoculars toward the horizon and watches his aircraft disappear northwestward over the water. He telegraphs his wife Emmy that evening. "London is on fire from the city to the Thames estuary," he tells her. "The English have had enough." He was wrong about almost everything, but he wouldn't know that for 6 years, and neither, that night, would Britain. September 7th cannot be understood without the weeks that preceded it, because the weeks before Black Saturday were weeks in which Germany was winning. Not easily, not without cost. The Luftwaffe had lost more than 600 aircraft over England since July, but Britain's losses told a different story. The RAF had lost fewer than half that number of planes, and was losing the battle anyway, because what was being systematically destroyed was not the aircraft. It was the machine that directed them, the sector stations, Biggin Hill, Kenley, Hornchurch, Northolt, the nerve centers of British air defense, the operations rooms where controllers tracked every raid, scrambled every squadron, coordinated every intercept, telephone exchanges and huts and plotting tables. The Luftwaffe had found them and was taking them apart. By late August 1940, the repair chain was buckling. Pilots were dying faster than they could be trained. The men who had been flying since May were flying on exhaustion and reflex, landing, refueling, and climbing back into their cockpits. Some sector stations had been hit so many times their operations rooms had moved to local garages. Before the bombing began, Whitehall had predicted that a sustained German campaign could kill 600,000 civilians. That number was wildly overstated, but it captures something essential about the atmosphere of 1940. Britain was not confident. It was afraid, and it had reason to be. What broke the logic of the airfield campaign was not strategy. It was fog. The night of August 24th, 1940. Approximately 10 German bombers, off course in haze that has blanketed southeastern England, dropped their loads on London. They were supposed to be elsewhere, oil storage tanks near the Thames estuary. Instead, their bombs fall on Bethnal Green, on Islington, on a residential street in Stepney. Whether through miscalculation or mechanical failure, it cannot be entirely determined. But the result is certain. German bombs have fallen on London for the first time in this war. Churchill orders a reprisal. RAF Bomber Command strikes Tempelhof Airfield in Berlin within 24 hours. 4 days later, British bombers return, hitting the Görlitzer railway station in the German capital. In Berlin, the effect is not panic, it is fury. Hitler had explicitly prohibited attacks on London. He had hoped, even in September 1940, that Britain might still negotiate. The Berlin raids dissolved that restraint. On September 4th, standing before an audience in the German capital, he delivers his answer. When the British Air Force drops 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 kilograms of bombs, then we will drop 150,000, 180,000, 230,000, 300,000, 400,000 kilograms on a single night. When they declare they will attack our cities in great measure, we will eradicate their cities. The hour will come when one of us will break, and it will not be National Socialist Germany. An accident became a reprisal. A reprisal became a speech became a policy, and the policy is about to become a catastrophe. September 3rd, 1940, 3 days before the raid. Göring summons his 2 air fleet commanders to The Hague. The room holds 3 very different men. Goring, rings on his fingers, a large cigar, the confidence vast and largely untethered from the operational realities his commanders have been living with for months. Albert Kesselring, commanding Luftwaffe. 2. Trim, outwardly optimistic, the man his subordinates call Smiling Albert, a former chief of the Luftwaffe General Staff who has already directed the bombing of Warsaw and Rotterdam. And across the argument from him, Hugo Sperl, commanding Luftwaffe 3, large, monocled, older in campaign experience. The commander who led the Condor Legion in Spain and learned there the hard way what air power could and could not do. Göring's question is direct. Has the RAF been broken enough to permit the bombing of London? Sperl says no. Keep destroying the sector stations. Keep doing what is working. The RAF's air defense network is a fragile, interconnected mechanism, and it is close to failure. Hit it harder. Don't stop now. Kesselring disagrees. The forward airfields are expendable, he argues. Enemy fighters can simply move to bases on the far side of London. The only way to destroy fighter command is to draw it into a decisive battle, and the only target large enough to force that battle is London itself. Strike the heart of the empire. Draw them up in numbers. Destroy them in the air rather than on the ground. It is a coherent argument. It is also wrong. Goring sides with Kesselring. The teletype goes out on September 5th. Raid on the London docks. Full fighter escort. The decision is made. In a basement at Bletchley Park, Britain's ultra-decryption teams intercept the message almost as quickly as Kesselring does. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, commanding No. 11 Group, and Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding at Fighter Command are told. Something large is coming. They do not know what. They do not know when. Sperl walks out of The Hague. He told Göring the truth. The truth was not useful. He will spend the coming months directing the very campaign he argued against, flying his bombers from bases in western France toward a city he believed was the wrong target. He was right about that, but history is not yet written, and right now, all he can do is follow orders. Saturday, September 7th, 1940. The day arrives warm and nearly cloudless over southeastern England. At radar stations along the south coast, operators step outside into the mild morning air. For the first time in weeks, the screens are clear. No formations assembling over France. No plots developing across the Channel. In London, the weekend begins with the ordinary weight of its own routines. Shopping, football, the kind of September Saturday that feels, briefly, like the war is somewhere else. Then, at mid-afternoon, the radar returns begin. At 4:43 p.m., the air raid sirens start to wail. In Dulwich, an off-duty fire officer steps outside and looks up. What he sees stops him. The sky over the East End is filling, not with scattered aircraft, but with something that takes a moment to resolve. Black dots, hundreds of them, moving in ordered formation. Dorniers and Heinkels, wave after wave, with fighter escorts layered above them. One Spitfire pilot, approaching the formation from altitude, later described it as looking up the escalator at Piccadilly Circus. 617 fighters, 348 bombers. The largest single air raid ever directed at Britain. Their target is unmistakable from altitude. The great U-shaped meander of the Thames around the Isle of Dogs, the Royal Victoria Docks and the Surrey Commercial Docks. Target Area A on every Luftwaffe planning map. Below the formation, packed into the terraced streets that crowd up against the water, are the people of Rotherhithe and Stepney and Limehouse and Wapping. Dock workers and their families. People who walked to work, who had no gardens large enough for Anderson shelters, who will face this night under the stairs or in a public building or not at all. The bombs come in two kinds: high explosive, which shatters; incendiary, which burns. In some places, the concentration of fire reaches temperatures of 1,000 degrees Celsius. The Surrey commercial docks catch first timber and food that survived the Atlantic crossing, that came through the U-boat lanes and the warship patrols and the long haul across the ocean, going up in smoke. Beckton Gas Works, the largest in Europe, takes direct hits. The Ford Motor Works at Dagenham, oil storage at the mouth of the Thames, on Stepney and Rotherhithe, and every street in between, the people run. Stan Harris is 22 years old. He is in his house when the bombing begins. The sky was black with the German bombers and fighters, he later recalled. We was frightened to go out in the garden in the shelter, and we all went under the stairs, and all the night through you could hear thud, 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 and the whistles as the bombs were falling. Under the stairs. At the 11 Group Operations Room, Park and Dowding watch the raid develop on the plotting board. Park makes the decision not to commit his fighters in full force, masking their true strength, preserving what remains. The Luftwaffe loses 41 aircraft across the afternoon. The RAF loses 25, with 16 pilots killed or missing. Neither number tells the real story. The real story is the docks burning and the sector stations still standing. At 6:30 p.m., the all-clear sounds. Families emerge from shelters, from under stairs, from church crypts and shop basements. The eastern sky is red. The Surrey docks are still burning. A column of black smoke rises from Beckton and bends westward in the evening air. The silence lasts 90 minutes. At 8 p.m. they come back. They need no navigation equipment this time, no compasses, no calculations of bearing or altitude. The fires, the first wave started an hour and a half ago, are still burning, and they are visible from the French coast. 300 more aircraft cross the channel, guided by the light of what the afternoon already did. The sirens sound again. The families who had just emerged go back in. This time, it is dark. At precisely 8:07 p.m., a signal goes out to military units across Britain. A single code word: Cromwell. Its message: the German invasion has begun. Church bells ring across rural England, the pre-agreed signal that German troops have landed. Home Guard units stand too. Bridges are readied for demolition. Coastal defense positions are manned. No German troops have landed. No invasion fleet is in the channel. Operation Sea Lion will be postponed indefinitely in 10 days. But nobody in England knows that yet. What the commanders in London know is this: German barges have been massing in channel ports for weeks. The raids on southern England have been intensifying, and now the most overwhelming air attack in British history is entering its second wave. To the men watching this unfold, with everything they had spent the summer fearing, the bombing looks like the prelude to something worse. They are wrong, but wrong in that particular direction, in that particular moment, is entirely understandable. The church bells ring. The bridges are mined. The invasion that was never coming is announced across England by a bombing raid that is itself the greatest strategic mistake the Luftwaffe will ever make. Everyone, on every side, is reading the night incorrectly. The second wave doesn't stop. As one formation turns for France, another is already inbound. Wave after wave across the channel, 250 heavy bombers in the night following the 348 of the afternoon, dropping 300 tons of high explosives and landmines on the city below. Britain's night defenses are, in practical terms, useless. The anti-aircraft guns have no fire control systems. The searchlights cannot reach aircraft above 12,000 feet. The night fighters scrambled. 2 Hurricanes from Tangmere, patrolling their own airfield, have no effective radar. The bombers move through the dark almost unopposed. The only light is the city burning beneath them. In the underground stations, families arrange blankets on the platforms. Mothers settle children. Men play cards. The women's voluntary service moves along the platforms with tea and sandwiches. The trains keep running until midnight, and late travelers step around the bedding as they pass through. Above them, muffled but audible even underground, the thuds continue. The firemen who come to fight the Surrey Docks fire arrive from Bristol and from Birmingham, from every station in London and beyond. They are mostly auxiliaries, men who hold other jobs, who are trained in a rush and handed hoses. The fire they face is burning at temperatures their equipment was not designed for. They push forward when the heat allows. They hold their positions when it doesn't. In Germany, at his microphone, Goring broadcasts to the nation. He tells the German people this is the first great blow he has personally commanded. He has struck, he says, a serious blow straight at the enemy's heart. At the same moment, the food that survived the Atlantic run, that came through the U-boat lanes and the long haul to London, is burning at the Surrey docks. Families are under the stairs in the dark, listening to the thud and whistle of it. The firemen from Birmingham are standing in the firestorm. The bombing does not stop until 4:30 in the morning. September 8th, dawn over London. The casualty figures come slowly. 430 dead, 1,600 badly injured. Entire streets in Rotherhithe and Limehouse simply absent. Not damaged, not in need of repair, but gone. The Ministry of Home Security surveys the docks and issues its assessment. Serious damage, but not crippling. The quays are standing. The equipment can function. What the government had not prepared for was the scale of homelessness. 35 times as many people were made homeless as were killed, a proportion nobody had modeled. The East End bears the full weight of the night. Across the river, the West End is untouched. That distance, measured in miles but felt as something larger, begins to generate a resentment the newspapers will be slow to acknowledge and the government slower to address. Among the ruins of the East End, the sector stations are standing. Biggin Hill, Kenley, Hornchurch, Northolt, damaged through August. Some barely operational, but not finished. Given by the decision made at The Hague on September 3rd, one night's reprieve. Then another, then another. Park does not know yet what this reprieve means. The exhausted sector controllers at their plotting tables do not know. The pilots who scrambled on the afternoon of September 7th do not know. Every bomb that fell on the East End was a bomb that did not fall on those airfields. The people who bear that cost had no part in the decision that created it. They were in Rotherhithe, living near the docks because that is where the work was, and the bombs came because a man in a white tunic on a cliff in France decided London was a better target than Biggin Hill. September 10th, 3 days after Black Saturday. The people displaced by the September 7th raid, families with nowhere left to go, houses reduced to rubble or condemned, have been directed to South Hallsville School in Canning Town. They are told that buses are coming. They will be evacuated somewhere safer, out of the East End, away from the patterns the Luftwaffe has already established. They wait. The buses were sent to Camden Town. A miscommunication somewhere in the chain of coordination between local authorities and central government. The buses went north, looking for a school that was south. The people at South Hallsville waited. They are still waiting when the bombers return on the evening of September 10th. The school is destroyed. The government announces 77 dead. Local residents say, immediately and for decades afterward, that the number is wrong, that the ruins held far more. Revised estimates made long after the war put the figure at close to 600. The records were suppressed, not because of enemy action, not because of bad luck, because buses were sent to the wrong address and the people who were supposed to be somewhere safer were still in the East End when the bombs came back. The newspapers in September 1940 are writing about Cockney defiance, about East Londoners carrying on, about weddings taking place among the rubble. The resilience they described was real. The people arranging bedding on underground platforms, the WVS women with their tea, the families who went back to work on Monday morning. Their endurance was genuine, and it cost them something real. But the official story being assembled in those same days is not the whole story. The whole story includes South Hallsville School and the names that the government decided the public's morale could not afford to know. September 17th, 1940. 10 days after the opening of the Blitz, Operation Sea Lion is postponed indefinitely. The Cromwell alert, the church bells, the mined bridges, all of it triggered by a bombing that was not and had never been, the prelude to invasion. The barges in the channel ports stand down. The invasion plan that Britain spent the summer fearing does not come. In the weeks that follow September 7th, the sector stations are repaired. Ground crews work through nights, operations rooms are rebuilt. The controllers come back to their tables. Park's squadrons reconstitute. The pilots who survived August get their first real rest since summer began. Göring had been told the RAF was broken. His intelligence had dramatically understated the number of operational British fighters. He did not know how close he had actually come. The airfield campaign had been working. The Luftwaffe that crossed the Channel on the morning of September 7th was, by any serious operational measure, winning the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe that crossed it on the morning of September 8th was not, because the decision that mattered had already been made the day before and made the wrong way. The royal docks that Göring telegraphed his wife about, eliminated, finished, on fire. They are open throughout the war. The food that came across the Atlantic, that the U-boats tried to stop, that the firestorm at Surrey docks could not finish. It kept coming. The docks kept working. Target Area A on the Luftwaffe planning maps remained operational for the duration, handling the cargoes that kept a besieged island alive. What appeared on September 7th to be Germany's killing blow was the moment Germany turned away from the thing that was actually killing its enemy. Goring stood on the cliff at Cap Blanc-Nez and watched what he took for his finest hour. What he was watching was the end of his campaign's coherence. He would not understand this for years. October 15th, 1946, Nuremberg. Hermann Göring. The man in the white tunic, the man with the champagne and the binoculars, the man who broadcast to Germany that he had struck a serious blow straight at the enemy's heart, is found dead in his cell the night before his scheduled execution. He had concealed a cyanide capsule from his guards throughout his captivity. The Allied hangman never reached him. His last act was to deny them the satisfaction. It is, in its way, entirely in character, theatrical, defiant, and ultimately futile. The royal docks are still open. The cargoes that survived the Atlantic crossing, that outlasted the U-boat patrols and the warships and the firestorm of Black Saturday, are still moving through London's East End. The target he watched burn from the cliff at Cap Blanc-Nez never stopped functioning. 56 more nights of bombing followed September 7th, then hundreds more. Coventry, Bristol, Liverpool, Plymouth, city after city across the country. 43,000 civilians would die before it was over, and the city he said was on fire never went out.